Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a sort of correcting minor issues here and there to get my hummingbird Bayonetta statue all displayed. Now, I just got her in this week and I absolutely love the statue, except there's some things I'm not really too happy about. I'm going to keep this statue for a long time because it's actually a holy grail. It's like she stepped right out of the game, and I've always wanted a 1/4 scale of a basic, museum pose. And of this Bayonetta game, because I actually love the first game. I love her design. And I've been waiting for a nice just 1/4 scale, just museum pose. Now, the base that came with her is humongous. I did not realize it was going to be this heavy. And it is just very bulky. So I'm going to put her together. We're going to do a little video on kind of correcting some of the issues. And I'm going to mull it over for a year. I'm going to let it sit in my case for a year. And I'm going to decide whether to, you know what, it's time to get rid of this base. It's too bulky and I just want a museum pose, and I'll just make like a simple rock base that sort of displays her, and then I can fit stuff together. Or once I have everything together and I have it in my display, I might fall in love with the base and say I don't need it. So it's one of those things I'm kind of debating on. I did know that when I saw some of the In the Wild videos or pictures that the guns are very pink. These guns should be more of a magenta red. And we're going to correct the guns. I knew right away once I got her in I had to repaint these guns right away. So I did order some paints. We'll go over that later. But for right now, I got to start correcting the issues of the base, because I can't put the base together and then put her together and then see if I need to correct anything as I go. So it's kind of like, as I'm pulling stuff out of the box and I start putting together, we're going to correct some issues. Now, I did see a video on YouTube where I guess the person put it together, but her left arm wasn't connecting correctly, so I don't know if mine's going to have that issue where I have to swap out some magnets. So like I said, it's like I'm going to pull out items from the base. I found a good spot for her in my display case, and I'm going to see if, like, okay, as I pull out these items, I need to correct the issues. We put it together, and then we put her on, and then we're done. Now, the other thing is, this box is so big. The box is humongous. I did not realize this box was going to be so big, and I did not realize this base was going to be so damn heavy. I wish Hummingbird kind of, not cheaped out on the base, but kind of maybe focused on maybe streamlining it a little bit better, because where I wanted to put her in my display cases of my module cases, I wanted to put her on the one area where it was an adjustable shelf, but it's a plexiglass shelf. And sadly, that shelf will not be able to hold this space just by itself. And if I put everything else on this thing, it'll never hold it. Now, what I would have to do is I would have to go and get maybe a really thick piece of plexiglass. Really thick, like maybe an inch thick. And then it would be able to support it. But at that point, I'm just going to put her in my corner area where all my other Bayonetta stuff is. And it'll work out pretty well. Now, the other thing is I'm going to mull her over for a year. With this base. So once I get it all together and I put her in there, after a year, if I feel that, okay, you know what, the base has grown on me and I like it, I'm going to just leave it alone. But if I feel that, you know what, the base is too bulky, it's really not what I want, maybe what I can do is sort of maybe utilize the monster a bit, maybe chop up some stuff and come up with something else. I don't know. I have to debate, I've always just wanted this first Bayonetta game so bad, of a 1/4 like just museum, that I just don't know what I want yet. But I'll figure it out. With that being said, the other thing too is the box is so big I'm throwing the box away. Normally I don't like to throw away my boxes for my statues, but I have a very, very small attic where you can only crawl in, and I'll never even get the box up into one area. And the other thing is, if I put it in the garage up in the rafter areas, my garage is not climate controlled, and heat in the cold and being close to the bay, the box will just get deteriorated. And I don't ever plan on selling this item anyway. I just love the statue that much. And also, I just don't really need the box. And I figure if I do decide to sell off the statue down the line, or I decide to redo the base, it'll be easy to remove it or sell it. And I think she's being recast on eBay anyway like crazy right now, so it doesn't matter anymore. So this is just one of those items where I love it so much that I'm going to keep it as long as I can. And then if something happens, oh well. Actually, I think there's a little broken part over here. Like I'm saying, I think something happened here where they didn't put this together correctly. So this monster's left arm is supposed to go into here, right? And it's supposed to kind of click. Now the problem is if I try to put the hand up in here and put this arm in here, it, see, it snapped. I knew it was going to snap, and this is the problem. So I was going to break this finger anyway and have it do it. So this finger's got to be broken, so I'm just going to go ahead and break this finger, right? It's not going to, it's going to snap. So what you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in and it's going to snap. Okay? And now the arm goes in. So with that being said, now I can go ahead and I can break this finger up, and I can kind of break this finger where I was going to break it anyway, you know, and put these in. So that, see, that's a problem. See, like it was either chisel this arm down and go in, but it was never going to fit anyway. See, I don't know what happened. I'm wondering if this arm is not the correct arm for the statue. Like maybe they swapped out some arms or something, and something happened. But I was going to chop this anyway. I was going to basically, see, it doesn't even fit now. See, there's a gap there. So I'm going to basically go in the garage. We're going to put a rod in here, and we're going to make this arm sort of come out a little bit more. The finger. And this one over here is the same thing. Now, it's probably supposed to touch it, but I'm going to make sure it comes out a little bit more like so. So we're going to fix that issue. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people's fingers broke on theirs. And it's actually hollow here, too. See? A little bit of a bubble in there. So maybe that was a problem. Maybe this bubble or something maybe warped the finger and it brought it in a little bit more. I don't know. So that's an issue. But we're gonna fix it. Not a problem. Not the end of the world. And this one right here was a little bit tricky too. When I was messing with this one, it was kind of like didn't want to fit in all the way. Like I'm not really sure. It's like it's supposed to. Doesn't fit in all the way. Like, alright, so going here, right, putting this one in here, it's supposed to go up, like this fingernail is kind of like stopping this from going all the way flush. So I don't know if you can kind of tell. See, like this arm is not clicking in all the way because this fingernail and this fingernail is sort of hitting here. And it's going to snap. I know it's going to snap. So I think with this one, because it's like it's not going all the way. So I think with this one, I'm just going to chisel out this base here, and I'm going to chisel out some of this base around here, and then this should be able to kind of fit in better. And then maybe that'll go like kind of click in, because I don't want to snap these fingers. I think it's better if I just chop this base up. You know, because it's already chopped up around there. So I'm going to go in there and chop that up. So with that being said, this tells me I'm going to run into some more issues. Now, Bayonetta foot here and foot here fit in pretty well. But I don't know how all these other elements are going to start fitting in. And this is what's kind of scaring me with this item. I mean, the fact that they did a great job with the item. The casting is great. The paint isn't all that great. You know, I might go ahead and paint these better down the line. There's like some weird dust down here, so I don't know what happened there. It's like maybe overspray. You know, I don't know. I might toy with it down the line. I'm just got so much ahead of me right now, but I just want to get her in my display case. So these fingers are a problem. So I'm going to go in the garage. I'm going to chop that down. I'm going to go ahead and chisel out these fingers, and we're going to kind of mix up some A's, and we'll get these glued up together and kind of let that set, and I can touch it up. And then I'm going to start getting the guns ready. And then once these arms are done and everything is done here, I'll come back another day and I'll start putting more pieces and go from there. Yeah, this is one of those items that literally is going to be a kind of a nightmare to sort of kind of get it all together and fit without going crazy. But I think this arm does not go with this body. Or either they painted these arms separate and then they just figured, oh yeah, they all fit. I'm not really sure. But it is what it is. So if you have this Bayonetta and you're getting her, be very wary of where you're doing your items and how you put this stuff in. This is some nice hard polystone where the figure is kind of softer resin, where I don't think you could even hit this with a blow dryer and do this stuff, because it's yeah, it's definitely like a polystone. All right, Let me go in the garage, drum all this stuff out. We'll come back, and then we'll get this set up with some eaves. Get this kind of set aside, let it cure, and then we'll start setting up the guns. I really want to get these guns repainted today while I have a chance. Okay, so this fingers are going to be sort of an issue because the way this kind of comes out. See, so I guess they. Now that I'm looking at the key, I guess they designed it where it's supposed to kind of like slide into the item like so. But sadly, something happened on this one. I'm not really sure what happened. It's got to be this wrist wasn't... No, because this finger works pretty well here. So it can't be the wrist because if this was to come forward, then this wouldn't hit. Something went wrong. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if the body's back too... I can't figure this one out. Anyway, we're going to fix it. So we have the broken fingers. Not the end of the world, right? So this finger needs to be up a little bit. This one's right here. So I dremeled out holes in here, and I dremeled out holes in here. Now this actually, air bubble actually goes down pretty far, which is kind of just going to work. Now, yeah, this finger should be touching this area down here like so. But you know what? I'm going to have it raised up a little bit more like that. And then this one here, same difference. This should, see, it sort of fits. This one definitely doesn't fit. Something here. These fingers must have warped then. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe this air bubble screwed this finger up, so when they pulled it out, the air bubble kind of created the finger to pull it in. That's the only thing I can think of. So this hand, if this finger is not... Yeah, see, this finger is going to hit this area too. So I'm wondering if I should Dremel. I could have just dremeled out the base like I did there, but I think I'm gonna have to have the fingers out anymore. So anyway, with that being said, let's kind of come down a little bit with these fingers, and then we're going to make them stick out a little bit more, and then from there we will maybe have to work on the base too and chop it out. I don't know. We'll see. So this is brass rods. You get these anywhere. Usually, you know, I would use a thicker rod with this one, but this one I'm going to use a little smaller. So we just kind of use a brass rod, sort of help support it a bit. And then over here, same thing. It's kind of like an armature. So we still have our A's over here. We're going to need some glue. So what I have is I have my BSI gel glue. It's called ice gel. This stuff is the best to use because it's a gel. You can use super glue or the BSI regular glue, but that's very liquid. I've done some videos on glues on my channel. Check that out. And the gel is great because you put the gel on there and it doesn't bleed everywhere. But the only problem with the gel is if you put two pieces together and you squeeze, the gel squeezes up around. But then again, if you use the wet stuff and you squeeze it, it'll bleed down your item. So the gel is always better because it doesn't do that. And this is called Instaset, and Instaset makes it pop like that. But you gotta be very careful with your Instaset because if you get your Instaset anywhere around here, it'll clog this up and you're done. So you keep the two separate. Even on your fingers, if you get an Instaset on your fingers and you start messing with this, the fumes will kind of cure it up. So I have something like this around. We'll use one of the bigger ones. This will kind of help us set the glue, and you'll see why in a second. So for these fingers, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our eaves, and we're going to put the eaves in here, like so. Grab a bottom of a paintbrush, any other tool you have, a little safety solvent just to sort of not stick everywhere. Be careful of eaves too. If you're using it and you're getting it on your fingers, or you're using a pair of rubber gloves, or whatever you're doing, the eaves kind of gets residue all over. You can kind of see it's like on your fingers. So wipe it off, wipe it on your t-shirt, paper towel, wherever. I get messy in the studio, so I just kind of wipe it on my shirts. Sometimes you just don't have time to think and try to do stuff, so I'm going to throw a little eaves up in here. Like so. And then we're going to throw some more in here. Now this one I think is a little bit deeper bubble. Okay, so as you can see, I'm throwing it eaves on inside. So we're going to use some glue. So the fingers are broke like this, right? So I'm letting A use thicker here, but I'm going to put glue here so I can sort of kind of bend the finger and sort of position it. You'll kind of see how that works. So we're going to take this rod, we're going to put this in here, so, and we're going to sort of bend it. Now that might be a little too far, so we want to test first before we go crazy, because you don't want to put a rod in here and then all of a sudden it's not working. As you see, it's a little too high, so we'll kind of cut this off. It's good enough for what we're trying to do. And then do the same thing, kind of bend this one a little bit. Okay. This is going to be a little bit of a tricky part. So we got our glue. I think the best thing to try to do is maybe see if we can do this while it's on the statue. And like I said, if it gets messy and stuff, I'll be able to Dremel it out and go from there. So we'll do this finger first and then this one. And then once the glue sort of helps lock it in place, we'll go ahead and throw more eaves in there. Alright, so get our Instaset, get this piece sort of ready, throw it like over here on the side. So we start off with this, so we're going to take a little bit of glue, throw it up over here like so. Grab our Instaset rod, throw this over here, what's sort of kind of line this up. So like I said, the glue's kind of squeezing over the edge. And I don't want it to hit it too much. See, I can kind of like sort of bend it while it's soft. So it's a little bit on the outside of this there right now, which is fine. So I'm going to grab some of my Instaset again. Make sure I kind of really get that on there. Okay, next finger, sort of the same thing. So we kind of throw all our glue in here, like so. Get our glue bottle out of the way, because we don't want this to get cured up on us. Get some of our Instaset ready. If you have somebody else doing this with you, it's a little bit easier. Sometimes when I'm by myself, you gotta it's kind of a little bit of a pain in the ass. And then sort of hit this with the Instaset. Alright, now hopefully okay. So yeah, something's off with that. Okay. So the left pinky out here fits pretty good. These two fingers didn't fit good at all. So it is hovering over the thing, and these fingers aren't doing it, but these fingers would snap. They would definitely snap. So it kind of goes in a little bit correctly now. And I'm okay with it hovering. It's not the end of the world that it's not touching perfect. I'm not going to cry about it, you know. So, alright, that's that. Now, this is a little bit tricky, this part here. Now, I gotta be a little bit careful with this. Now, sometimes, if you do use some glue, and it's not actually set, what'll happen is if you use your paintbrush, one of your paintbrushes, you will get glue on it and destroy your brush. Now, these are throwaway brushes for me, so it doesn't really matter. But, so now that you can see there's gaps in these fingers, and what we do is we take some more of our eaves, grab our paintbrush with some safety solvent, and we sort of rebuild and tighten this area up best we can. Sometimes if it's a very, very complex item and I have to rebuild the finger, I'll thicken it up, like what I'm doing here. You know, throw this around the edge. You know, I might have to go, if it's like I said, if it's a really, really complex repair and there's a lot of chips, I'll have to go in there and sort of rebuild the finger, some of the details. You know, like some of this little bit of a, where it would kind of crease would bend in the finger. If it's a small finger, it's a little bit more involved, per se. Sometimes it's also better to build like I'm doing now, let it cure, and go in there and Dremel a little bit out, and then sort of detail it up again with Aves. It all depends on the item. It all depends on what needs to be repaired. Nothing's the same really in repairs. Alright, so this is a smaller brush. So there's a little bit of a crevice here. So if I squeeze that glue over there tomorrow, what I could do is just sort of Dremel that out, hit it with a little Aves, fix it up, and go from there. Or, you know, if you want to wait for a week, you know, because you got job, family obligations, whatever, you know, you can always keep building this up over time. The harder the detail on the item, like say it's a soft finger, like a female finger, a male finger, sometimes those are harder than something like this, because this is a little bit dirty, per se. It's kind of like white with some dirt and some stuff, so, you know, you could kind of get away with this one a little bit easier to repair and make it look like it was factory and intended, versus like a female finger where you got perfect knuckles and it's very flat paint. It's a little bit harder. You know what we do is we take some more of our Aves, so you can see in there, you can still see the metal rod with the finger. So what we do is we take some of this Aves, and if you have your tool, dip it in a little bit of the safety solvent just so you can kind of squeeze it in that little knuckle area, like so. Now, even if you use color Aves, like, you know, I have red Aves, and this is just to fix it, like, natural color or basic white. I forget what color this is. It doesn't really matter if it's colored. You can always just go in there and paint over it. So we just take a little bit more of the Aves here. So the good thing is you don't really see underneath of it. So if you're not really perfect or sort of clean on the inside, it's sort of hidden. So you really don't have to worry as much. And like I said, sometimes it's better to kind of thicken this area up anyway. Now, once you do this Ave stuff, right, and this cures and it's hard as a rock, it can still break. If you do enough force, it can break, and you can, you know, cause more issues. Like, if this cures up and it's good, it might break from here, or it could break from this finger again. You know, you never really know. You know, Aves is really strong, but it's not, you know, steel. It's still a putty that cures, an epoxy stuff, and it can break. So I don't have my huge magnifying glass is on right now because I would hit the camera, but it's pretty much there. I mean, it's pretty simple. So I might have to just kind of like chisel out this finger a little bit tomorrow. You know, this one actually came out pretty well up here. And then what we do is we test it one more time. Hopefully we're in the thing, and then just kind of make sure that locks in place pretty well. Okay, so there you go. That is that finger. That locks in there pretty well. And then I'll put the other hand up there later. Now, actually looking at this, let's see, kind of get over. So this little spot over here, I'm looking at this, needs to be kind of cleaned up because I wasn't looking at this angle. So what we'll do is we'll kind of get up there, and then we'll grab our tool and sort of look like it got sliced up a little bit going down, like so. All right, yeah. So I'll put this aside. This is pretty much ready to go, at least this part. We'll touch it up tomorrow, and then maybe by tomorrow when I start working on putting it together, after this is done, you know, what I'll do is I can wake up early tomorrow morning, kind of go over this, make sure everything is looking good, sand it down, tweak it a little bit, and then we can touch it up with paint, and then I can start adding on other elements. And if things are starting to fit together and stuff, we'll be good. If not, and I run into another issue, we'll go from there. So I don't know how long this video is going to last. I don't know how many problems we're going to have to fix. But next step is I'm going to grab lunch, and then I'm going to start painting up the guns. Okay, so we'll start off with the right arm. Yeah, something really went wrong here. I don't know. I don't know if it was this hand is glued into this arm wrong, or this warped, or the fingers warped. Because the only way to get this arm correctly on here and sort of like stay is I had to Dremel out. So what happened is when this was first here, the fingers were actually hitting up here, and then as I started Dremeling out, the fingers started coming down more when it started going flush into the arm. Then what happened is you can see this finger goes really deep into this base. Like, see how far that goes in there, and then how far this goes into here, and then how this kind of lines up here correctly. But even over here, this fingernail, yeah, something went wrong. I don't know what went wrong. I can't line this up correctly. I don't know if it's these. This piece is definitely glued into this wrist here. So I'm wondering if this wasn't glued in correctly, or I'm wondering if maybe this arm warped in casting, or maybe this wood warped in casting where it came forward. I mean, but Bayonetta fits into the base pretty well. Her left foot and right foot fit in good. So there's something wrong. I can't figure out what went wrong. The body looks like it's glued into the base correctly. So it's got to be something between a casting issue or a warping issue between this wrist or gluing into this here. Maybe this hand was glued too far forward and it should have been come back. Maybe these fingers warped in too much. I don't really know. But that's okay. We're correcting it as we go. As I can tell, though, I don't think anything is going to... You know, I'm hoping that when I correct stuff, that stuff doesn't start to warp out this stuff, and then that's... So it's like, it's going to be like a puzzle. It's really something wrong here. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to get the eaves ready. I'm going to go over eaves real quick for anyone that's new to the video, my channel, and kind of explain what's going on. But this is all going to work out fine. I'm not worried about this because I know I can correct all this stuff. But any of you guys out there who maybe pick up some of these imports or some of these non-licensed items and stuff, and you run into these issues, you're going to see what's going on, that maybe yours, you know, maybe people who bought this broke their fingers, or maybe don't even put the arms in. I'm not really sure. But let's kind of go on to the next step. Okay, so this is Abe's Fix-It sculpt. It's called Abe Studio, and there's Fix-It and there's regular Abe's. Now, I'm using Fix-It here for this item only because this stuff is sort of a white paint-up, and this stuff is not colored. I usually use my red Abe's. You can kind of see I got like some extra Abe's from other stuff. So you mix A and B together in equal amounts, and you have a 3-hour work time. So I figure I don't really need that much. So this is part B. Part B all looks the same. It's kind of like this greenish gray color. And then you have your part A. Sometimes these are colored, sometimes they're not. The reason why I use the Fix-It is because it's a little bit more sturdier and it's a little bit more durable, which means it doesn't like slop and fall over like soft Abe's. So you just mix equal amounts. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but you want at least equal as best as you can. And this right here is a little container of safety solvent. Abe's makes a safety solvent. And it basically, you really want the safety solvent. So if you have, if you're sensitive to chemicals, wear gloves. If not, then you should be fine. I usually just use gloves to mix it up initially, and then after that, I take my gloves off. So you just mix it up. I put a little dabs of my safety solvent in here just to give it a nice, good softness and mixture. If you got your Abe's nice and fresh with a little bit of the safety solvent, what'll happen is it'll feel like chewed gum. And, you know, it's pretty much, you know, just mixing it up. Make sure you have, like I said, equal amounts. Do your best to manage it. I mean, if you're Like my one friend where I make fun of him, he used to kind of scoop it out with a spoon and kind of make sure everything was completely perfect. I've been working on this stuff with Ace since 2014. It's 2024 now, and literally if you just pretty much get a basic idea of equal amounts, you're good to go. You know, you really don't want like, you know, a big glob of A and a little tiny bit of B, but you want like at least, you know, a little bit equal amount, depending on how much you need for the project. The more safety solvent you mix into it, the more it's going to get tacky and softer, but what you saw, what I did, works out pretty well. So we're going to use this for the fingers, and we're going to use this for this part up here. And then after this, I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to start working on the guns. And then once this is done, I come back another day, and we start adding on more parts to the item, and hopefully that's all we really have to do. But if we run into any other issues, like swapping out magnets, we'll go over all that. So the safety solvent, throw there, take your A's. Now real quick, just to let you guys know, I go through A's a lot, so I really don't need to do this, but if you're the type of person, maybe you have a full-time job and you only work on weekends, take your Fix-It, your A's, or whatever you got, put it in the refrigerator, and it'll stay fresh longer. And then when you come back the next weekend, or maybe 2 weeks from now, you pull out a refrigerator, let it just kind of cool down a little bit, mix it up, and you're good to go. It'll just make your stuff last longer. But I go through A's so much that I leave it in my drawer next to me, and I'm good to go. Alright, so let me get set up, and then we'll work on the next spot. Alright, so before I work on the fingers, we're going to do this part real quick. So just to kind of make life easier, make sure, you know, I see how the arm goes in. So this left finger is definitely flush against here, so that is okay. Now, what we're going to do is you get a paintbrush. I use paintbrushes. You know, you can get cheap paintbrushes in hobby stores or wherever, and you could kind of just use that for stuff. So we take some of our A's. Like I said, I chiseled this out, and I'm not really worried about this because I can resculpt this and make this look, you know, pretty much like wood. And I'm not really worried if it's going to be too messy, only because I mean, it's going to be kind of hidden anyway. We're going to be looking in this direction, but for peace of mind, I want this to make at least look pretty decent. So you just take some A's, put in there with some safety solvent, and then after it's cured up, takes about, you know, you have about 3 hours work time with these before it really starts to stiffen up, and then after you know, 3 hours, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, it cures hard as a rock. It'll be like this polystone resin, and you can sand it, you can paint right over it, you can use a primer depending on what you want to do. So it's really great stuff. So if you're really new to the hobby, or you have an item like this and you think you can sit there and patch stuff and kind of resculpt, you can go ahead and do it. Now I'm just throwing A's in here. It bonds really well. If you have a little extra A's, you can even like patch like a hole in the wall. I've done that where I've mixed up 2 A's and I had a hole in the wall. Instead of using spackle, I just threw some A's in there, and it works fine. It's really great stuff. So that's just for anyone that's new to the channel. In there. Alright, so I threw A's in there. Really easy. Now, at this point, you can sculpt it. You can go ahead and use baby powder if you wanted to. You can do a lot of things with the A's. You know, you can even paint it if you really wanted to. But the idea is we're going to just throw some saran wrap here, right? And we're just going to take this hand and make sure it kind of goes in there and sort of squeeze the area, right? To see where the things go, and we pop it out. And it made little impressions, right? So we take the saran wrap off, throw that away. So we have 3 little dots of where the nails are. So from there, if you have some tools or paintbrushes, you could kind of start, you know, chopping up this area and sort of make it look like chopped wood in a way. Like maybe it's got kind of broken up a little bit. You can kind of pull the eaves out, and you can kind of just, you know, play with it. So let's try to get a little bit closer for you guys so you see what I'm doing. And like I said, the good thing is it's like broken wood. So you can kind of splinter it, kind of just pull out E's. Like see I'm just kind of like pulling it out like it's kind of chopped. Now I'm not worried about if I get the residue on the other parts. We're going to touch it up later. just gonna kind of keep. I'd rather chop this out and make it look like this area up here, just so my fingernails have peace of mind putting this in and out, so it doesn't like break. So the idea is, if the fingernails are coming down, it's kind of scraping it, because if you try to just do the fingernails in there perfect and then pop them out, what'll happen is if it's kind of just like a little hole and you put the fingernail in there, when you try to pop it out, it might come up upwards and you might snap it and break it. So we're just going to kind of make it look like the fingernails are sort of chiseled into the area. Like I said, it's wood, so I'm trying to have a little fun with it. Sadly, it sucks, you know, when you have to do something like this to one of your items. You know, everybody would like to just be able to snag one of these items, put it on their shelf, and not have an issue, but sadly, I think some of these, I guess called fan art items, not really licensed, kind of run into some of these issues once in a while. Now, you know, the place I got this from, I could, you know, bitch at them, and I could say, you know, this is kind of ridiculous, blah, 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 you know, all this stuff. Now, I understand that if you can't do that on your end, and you need to, you know, get one that's repaired, you know, you gotta kind of fight and get it fixed up. I get it. But with me, I don't mind doing this stuff because I don't want to deal with all that, and I really want the item. So I'll go ahead and do all this type of stuff. Because like I said, in the end, this base might get thrown out anyway. It all depends on once it's all done. Alright, so you can do baby powder with these. So, say I was going to be repainting this hand anyway and fixing up the nails and stuff, and I didn't care if they got dirty. I could throw some baby powder in there and put in the nails and work with it and then sand it all down. But since the factory and the nails are okay, I'm just going to try to make sure this is like that. So, next step is we'll grab another sheet of saran wrap, put my saran wrap here. This is just to protect the nails. Like I said, you know, make sure everything is kind of going. And the saran wrap could go to your benefit too. So you could take the tool and sort of, you know, with the saran wrap having that little texture on it, it could kind of like help you out and kind of create like a little bit of wood stuff. Like I said, I'm trying not to have the nails lock into place. I really want to make sure that now the nails go in but don't really, and it kind of creates, I might create more of a texture than what they originally intended. That's alright. And then, like I said, so if this nail is going there, we can kind of push in a little bit more. I'd rather have it float the best I can than to have it all lock into place. Now, down the line, if I do decide I like this item, because I do have a Hinata statue too that one day I want to sort of touch up the base and make a little bit more lively. So maybe down the line when I get caught up on everything, I can do that one, and I can maybe bring this one to life too. This wood needs a little bit more life to it. It's very factory painted, where I would like to get in there and maybe detail it up a little bit more. So maybe that's something down the line. And you got to be mindful too of doing this. So you don't want to build out, you know, and make globs of paint. You want to still kind of create that wood look. Well, best I can. You know, this is all kind of like broken up and very like, Where in here we're just trying to get this. Now a little paint and a little bit of you know, matching it up after this cures up, because like I said, this will be cured by tomorrow. Maybe really later tonight. You can even like really get in there and do it if you wanted to. But at least now I won't have to worry about it snapping. So what we'll do is we'll take another piece of saran wrap one more time. Make sure. See, like I said, like when I put this in this direction, I'm hitting it, so I got to make sure I kind of get in there. You could even do tinfoil too, like if you put a piece of tinfoil in there, and you know how like tinfoil kind of grates up, it can make it look like wood kind of shattered a bit. But so what we'll do is we'll leave the saran wrap in there real quick, and then what we'll do is we'll kind of hit it with the brush a bit, and then maybe that kind of those little wrinkles will kind of help create a little bit of a texture. It's all about like sculpting, keying, making sure things look good, making sure you get the fingernails in and out, making sure things are looking good. Pull this off. You gotta be careful too when you pull this off because it might pull your A's forward too, so that's something to be mindful. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of like smooth this down a little bit here. Alright. Now normally I don't like to do it, but the fingernails aren't really going to be seen too much, so we'll just do one more time with it in the fingernails. See if we get any kind of residue. Not much. Looking pretty good. This one right here needs to be pushed in just a little bit more. So this is like a paintbrush, just kind of the end of the paintbrush, kind of just whoop, push it in there a little bit. And I think that looks good. I think that's going to work well. So I don't have to worry about the fingernails breaking. Looking good. Yep, got a little bit of smudge here. Let's get my smaller paintbrush. Kind of dig this area out a little bit more. Try it again. Yeah, looking good. So what I'll do normally is I'll let this set up for about a good hour or so, and I'll come back maybe when it's a little bit tougher, and then I'll put the finger and a hand on again, because you want to keep testing it like while you go, because you don't know if maybe by accident you pulled some A's forward or maybe it's sunk a little bit. You know, it just all depends. And always test your item until it gets to the point where the eaves starts to become hard as a rock, and then you're good to go. Now, if there is any little bit of issues, by tomorrow, and say this little fingernail accidentally had something there, you could always go in with a little Dremel tool and Dremel that little boop, like out real quick, and then get the fingernail in there, and it should work pretty good. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. So that worked out pretty well. And it's a little bit messy and stuff. So like I said, if you have a little bit extra A's on the edges that are sticking out, pull it down so it's nice and flat. Alright, so that's that side. You can do a couple things. If you have baby powder, you can throw baby powder in there and you can leave the fingernails and the hand on there, but that's one thing you want to be careful of. You don't want to leave this hand touching this area, because if it's soft and stuff, it could actually bond to those fingernails, and trying to pop it out later will pull the paint and make more of an issue. So that's something there. Alright, so I'm going to get this put aside, and we're going to work on the fingers. Okay, so I need to touch up the hand. It's the next day, and I got a little bit of yellow, a little bit of black. It's not really yellow, it's a little bit of a mixed up color that I have. A little white. This isn't pure white. It's got a little bit of this yellow color in there. went ahead and touched this up. So I had a little bit of white, a little bit of black, and a little bit of this like brownish yellow off-white color I had from another statue, because it actually matched up this kind of yellow in a tint in a way. So I just went ahead with a paintbrush and I just painted this up. There was a little bit of extra glue sticking up, so I kind of cut it off. But all in all, it looks pretty good. I'm happy with the touch-up, and it looks pretty much like a factory as close as possible. So both fingers going pretty well. I'm happy with it. I want to paint up the wood that I chiseled out and touched up. That's pretty simple. It's just some brown and some black. I'm not really going to even film that. It's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to take the base, I'm going to take the hands, I'm going to start putting it in my Maji case, and I'm going to start putting pieces together on the base, because I still got the figure to go. And if I could get the base together and everything's going good, then we're good. If I find that there's another part that's sticking out or something's wrong, we'll come back into the video and I'll explain what's going on, because I don't know if all the pieces are going to fit yet or not. But I'm going to start assembling stuff as I go after each piece is fixed up. And in this way, I'll know how things are situated. Yes, I still want to know how or why, what happened here. I'm looking underneath here. There's a little bit of whiteness here, so it looks like a little bit of a glue came out, and it's kind of clouded in this area. So it makes me think that maybe these hands were not glued on right. I don't know. I don't really know why this happened, but it is what it is. So if all goes well and I don't have any pieces I need to patch up, at least for the base goes, we'll probably come back with the guns at least, painting those up. And then, like I said, once I start putting the figure together, I'm not sure if magnets and stuff are going to work, because like I said, I still saw that one video and I keep watching it where the left arm doesn't magnetize incorrectly or something. So I have to see if mine has that issue. But we'll see as we go. Hopefully I don't have much more to repair, but who knows. Okay, so I was ready to start working on these guns, and I was looking at these and I'm saying, alright, I could go ahead and paint the whole gun in one color, and then I could go here and I could paint this like wood, and then I can do this trim in some gold, because it would be easier to do this trim in gold after I paint the gun. But the only issue is I have these gems here, and these gems are basically, I guess what they did is they painted this whole item, and then they just painted these with, like, you know, some metallic paint. And I'm really just sitting there like, okay, am I going to have to really mask this off, paint the gun, and then pull the masking? It's not going to look right. I decided, screw it. I'm going to take a little extra step on this. So I don't have all the colors, but you can get these types of gems over at the hobby store. You know, you can go in there and get a whole color thing. I used to have all tons of them colors, but I've gone through them over in the past. So, you know, so like I have like a red gem here, but it's not as big. So I probably could go in to the hobby store and find the correct sizes for these. So I'm going to take a gun with me to the hobby store tomorrow or something, or whenever I get a chance. Because I really want these guns to pop, you know. And I figure what I'll do is I'll take my Dremel tool, I'll Dremel this out, all these areas out. I got to make sure each gun though is correct too. I'm going to get that in a second. But I'll Dremel these out, I'll make sure I find the correct sizes of these gems, and I'll get the correct colors. Now, I was going online and I was looking at all the colors, and I realized that some of the replica guns out there, the colors are different. Some of the statues out there, the colors are different. And even these statue, this one here, colors don't match up, because we have a blue, we have a magenta, and the other two guns, we have a green, and then we have a red. That doesn't make any sense, because if you go into I have myself the art book here, and what I'm doing is I've been looking through the, you know, the guns and where the guns are positioned. And I also looked online, like, what the color of all the gems are. And honestly, one of the gems is actually white. So, you know, I just wanted to make sure that I had the correct gun and I had the correct gems in the area. So, from what I can tell, and from what I did online, looking online and everything, the gems are listed correctly. And, you know, I just kind of went over everything. So, I made myself a little list. So her right foot is a blue gem. Excuse my handwriting. Her left foot is a white gem. Her right hand is red. No, her left hand is red and right hand is green. So I need a blue, white, red, and green. Now, like I said, there's all these gems in here, but I don't have the correct sizes. But there is one here. Like, these right here are the correct sizes. And even if they're not completely perfect, I want these gems to pop and I want these guns to pop. And after I do this down, you know, get these guns and I'm happy with it and I get it in my display case, I might down the line maybe repaint her face and her skin tone. Or I might touch up the outfit. I mean, actually, I think the factory did a good job in the outfit. If you get it in the correct lighting, her outfit kind of has like a little bit of an interference blue in it, and it's really nice, and I like what they did. But it's just these guns are just completely off. So I've been doing some research over the past couple months, kind of looking for like a really cool, like a magenta type of a gun. And what I did is I found this base metallic pink from this Inspire brand. I also have this here, which is a pink fantasy. This got a little bit of a blue interference into it. And then I got some of their reducer. But if you look at the guns, like in the art book here, they're kind of like in certain, this is the old art book, you know, so the game is kind of like a little bit outdated, but you can kind of see it's like a little bit more of a reddish color, but it's got some magenta into it as well. So it, like, this gun is sort of close to it, but it's not, it's too light. It's not quite there. And I want mine to pop a bit. I also do have a red metallic paint here. So I have this red metallic paint. And what I might do is I might mix up a little bit of this. I might mix up a little bit of that. Try to come up with a color. Reduce it and kind of mist over this. And maybe I could punch this up a little bit more. I just want the guns to kind of glow a little bit more, you know. I think in Bayonetta 3, they made the guns a little bit more so you can see how these guns are. But I've been looking at some of the online replica guns and stuff, and it's going to try to match those colors, but I just want these to pop a little bit more. I do have another Bayonetta statue in my setup. I think it's the ACY one or something like that, and those guns are kind of off as well, but I'm not really focused on that statue because that one is a little bit more of a different type of style. So, and it's got like a removable chest piece to see bare chest, but that one I'm not really this one is the one I really want to focus on. So yeah, I'm going to go find these gems. I'm going to Dremel this out, and once I get them Dremeled out and I get these pieces where I can put a dab of glue and glue them in and get it nice and clean, it's going to take some time. I'll come back and we'll kind of paint them up, and then after that I could kind of glue the gems in, do all the trim with some gold, repaint the wood, and they should be ready to go. Alright, so I had to run out today, and I said, screw it, I'm going to the hobby store, I'm going to find myself gems. And instead of sitting there trying to find specific gems of this, and that, I figured let me just buy a big bag and get all these gems and have them for down the line. So what I did is I made sure that they line up correctly. Here's one right here, if I can get this picked up. That's the only problem with them. When they kind of go flat, they're a little bit of a pain in the ass. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful when I glue these in at the end. But anyway, went ahead, I took each gun and I put it in the correct part on the body. I wanted to make sure that I lined everything up. I didn't want to just Dremel out the, gems and then all of a sudden down the line be like, oh crap, which one goes where? So I made sure that I had each one. So I had the blue dot, a red dot, a green dot, and I'm not putting a dot on here. So when I go to paint it up, I'll take a little bit of silly putty and I'll just put a little bit of silly putty over those dots. So this way when I paint it up, I could pull off the silly putty and I know which to glue. And what I did is I went ahead and I made sure these gems sort of kind of line up correctly. Now I could do it a few ways where I can sink it into the gun, which I was thinking of doing. I'm not really sure yet, because the only problem though is if I try to sink it in there, I might screw up and like lose that little ring. But I did make sure I sort of Dremeled it out, and it is lining up. See, you got that little ring there that they kind of like sculpted, and the only problem is that should be there, but if I kind of, the problem is I'm running into, do I Dremel out a little bit more and I make sure this piece sinks in? Because what I'm thinking of doing is just grabbing like a piece of plastic here, glue this piece here on there, because I got so many of them here. I can actually Dremel this out and I can make sure I'm making a hole perfect where the gem kind of sinks into the bottom, which I think I'm going to do. Instead of just trying to glue it up top and then all of a sudden, like say if I glue it wrong and it dries, I got a little bit of a mess up, and then try to pry it off would be a pain. So I'm going to go back in the garage and I'm going to Dremel these back out. And I'm going to make sure that they're like sort of sunk into the point. Now if I Dremel out too much and I screw it up, I could always put a little eaves there and I could kind of like glue this on here and kind of do that. So when I say glue it, I'll show you right now. We'll do it right now. So this way I have a piece that I could kind of mess with. It doesn't always work. Sometimes they fall apart on you. But it should work for what I'm trying to do. So we got our piece of wood here. And all I'm saying is basically you just take a little bit of glue, right? You just kind of put a dab of glue on here like so. You don't want to get it on the edge. And then we get some of our Insta-Set. Just on a piece of wood like that. And then you take this little piece here and just put it like right on top of it. And then you put this Insta-Set right there. And then you have a little bit of a piece here, so say a little bit of a piece that you can kind of sit there and be like, okay, it's going to go in pretty flush, or I have to Dremel out a little bit more. So yeah, I think I'm going to sink them in a little bit more. I would love to have that little perfect round circle piece of gold around it, but I don't think I'm going to get that in there. These things are pretty small, and to try to get that in there might be a pain. But I really want to make sure that when I glue these in, I can put a dab of glue, just a very tiny dab of glue, and put the gem in there, and it lines up perfect. So I might have a little bit of playing with to do. And I did have a little bit of a mess up with this one here. This little hammer broke off the back of it. What happened was when I was getting ready to go to the art store today and pick this up, I accidentally was holding it wrong and I broke this off. But that's fine. I found a little piece and I can put that back on. So it's not the end of the world. I just got to be very careful with the other ones. So I'm going to go back in the garage. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to really kind of get my Dremel tool and see if I can Dremel this out a little bit more so it sinks in. And I might have to get rid of that little gold ring around there. So I'm going to have to line this up pretty good. I'm going to do it with all of them. And then I'll go back and I'll make sure I mark them each one again. So, you know, I'm going to pick up the red one first. When these work out, come back, put a little dab of red in there, and go back and forth. But that should work out pretty well that way. I just really want these guns to look good. I mean, the figure looks as good as it's going to get. And like I said, I might do the skin tone next year. But I really want these guns to really pop. So let me get in the garage and do that, and then hopefully by the time I'm ready to do it, we could come back and we could start painting them, and then afterwards I could kind of just start gluing in the gems, get everything else done, and then start plugging away on the rest of the item. Okay, so I'm going to start painting these up now, and what I did is I went ahead and ordered a base metallic silver and a pearl silver, only because I did test this paint here, the base pearl pink fantasy, and it was way too pink. It's got that like interference blue on it, and it's definitely not with the guns. And this color here, which is the base metallic pink, is sort of close to it, but it's not. The guns are a little bit more red, pearlized red kind of stuff. I mean, it's more of like an anodized gun, you know, aluminum type of looking type of gun in the game, but we're going to try to get that a little bit closer. So I think this red might be a little bit there, but I want to mix up some of these colors. I'm going to just kind of start to see if I could get a nice like base color in his bottle here. I'm not sure if these are going to mix too well. I don't know. This is the first time I'm using these paints too, so I'm going to see what happens. The goal is, I like the way the guns are, but if I could sort of get a nice good coat over it, even if it's sort of see-through, and I could get that little bit more of a reddish looking gun, that's what I want to do. So I'm going to see what I can do with mixing these up and see if I can come up with something really cool. If I can't, then I don't know. I also have that reducer as well, but we're going to see. And then I also have a promoter, adhesion promoter, which I'm thinking I might have to spray these guns. What I'll do is once I get the color where I think I'm going to do it, I'll spray a little bit on the gun, and if I see it bleeding or if I see it's not really grabbing too much, then I'll hit it with this. I just don't want to like overspray this or something and screw something up. I don't know. It's kind of like a little bit of step here and there. So let me see if we can get this mixed up first. Alright, so I went and looked at the book a little bit, and I was a little bit off with the color. It was a little too magenta, so I had to pull out some other colors, so I mixed up a fresh batch of paint here, and I'm hitting it with this color, and this is pretty much the color of the gun right here. This is where it's at. So I was just a little too pinkish in there. So what I had to do is I had to pull out some of the pink in there and kind of go with the red. And I added a lot more pearl into it too. So I got to get this, yeah, because it's kind of, you can see it's a little too pinkish. So going on pretty nice. Yeah, that's the color of the gun right there. That's where it's at. So that's kind of where we're supposed to be. So this little batch is just there's enough in here, and I'm also going to make sure I keep enough in the container just to be able to, in case there's any mistakes or anything, because you never know. You don't want to have to redo the whole guns again. So I'm going to go ahead and do these two. This batch right here is the batch I first mixed. So this is a little too pinkish, but this one right here works good. So what I did is I took some of this, I put it in here, and then I just threw a lot of silver and a lot of the pearl into it. And I put a little bit more red in there, and it got me to that color of the guns from the book and everything. So that's kind of where we're supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do these two. We're going to let these dry up. I'll come back once I start doing all the gold trim. I might not even film the gold trim. I'm just going to find a paint that works and go ahead and do it. I'm not sure if I'll have to mask off at least the heavier gold stuff, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so I have been slowly working on these here and there each little night, putting a little extra time and stuff, and I really like the way the gems are sitting in there. They look pretty good. Pretty happy with everything so far. Yeah. This one's a little awkward. I'm going to try to pop that one out, but the gold that I used was this Turbo Dork, and this was the, I forget, not really sure which color this is, but it's a really nice gold. It goes on really well with the paintbrush, but not perfect. I still can't find a gold that's absolutely amazing, but so far everything's working pretty good. Like I said, this one's kind of not really staying on too well, so I'm going to have to go in there and kind of chop that out. Put a little bit of another green in there, and then but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the color. I really like the way the color looks. I like the way they kind of, you know, hits the light. I put one of these in her hand in my case, and it looked really good. So I'm pretty happy with it. Sadly, this gem is just a little bit smaller than those, but that's just the way the white ones are that I got. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, get these all done. I'll put it in a case, and then what I'll do is I'll bring the camera over there, and we'll just look at it as she's all finished up. But pretty happy with this. Now that this is done, and I'm happy the way this comes out, I'm probably going to go on to Etsy, and I'm probably going to snag one of those life-size replica ones that are 3D printed. I wanted to get the, was it the first for 4 figures or something? I think that's what it's called. They did Bayonetta replicas, but they're like $500 right now, and it's a lot of money just to get a replica gun. And after painting these up in these colors and stuff, I figure I might as well just get one of those $40 prints off of Etsy and paint it up myself. The only thing is, what I'll do is I'll try to find a colored gem that'll fit it, because it's printed with the gem like this was. But if I could find some gems that go into those guns where that work out, I can kind of re-sculpt it and everything. So that'll be a video down the line. It'll be a good filler item. This way, when I have extra A's, I can fix up the gun, because I think it comes in like 3 or 4 pieces, and you got to put all the gun together. It just doesn't have a stand, but I can make a stand and put it in my case. I think that's a little bit better than trying to drop $500 on a kit. I mean, a pre-painted one, when I can kind of just do it myself. So I'm going to go ahead and get these finished up, and then what I'll do is I'll go put these up in her, get it all set up, and then we'll close out the video. Okay, we're standing in front of the module cases, and boom, put on the lights, and there we go. This is the setup, and I am really happy with my tweaks to the guns. They pop a lot now. The Hummingbird Studio statue is absolutely amazing. I really love how they did this sort of flat gray in the inside, and then over here on this stuff they did like a interference blue. Skin tone looks okay. I mean, I would definitely love to repaint it down the line myself. The only problem is I'm a little bit worried about this piece here. I would love to pop that out, but it's probably glued in, and I probably would snap it. So that's the only downside about trying to repaint the skin. But the guns look great. I'm happy with the gems. They pop out there and there. Can't see the guns over there, sadly, only because it's a very bulky statue and it's kind of hard to turn her. So if I was to turn her just to kind of twist her and look at her, I have to grab this corner here and I have to put my hand underneath that corner over there, because if you try to turn her, the sole weight will rip up the felt on the module cases. So I got to be careful with that. Now, one thing I didn't realize is this old PVC statue that I have of Bayonetta. This is the first Bayonetta item I got way back in the day, and I've had it with me since. The guns are actually painted just like these guns now, so it worked out pretty good. Sadly, I think the only problem is I would love to find a gold paint that goes on that doesn't bleed like they do with these gold in these like over in China, these factory gold. If you guys have any good golds that go on with a paintbrush, that go on smooth and don't bleed, let me know, because that's the only downside about these guns. But other than that, I'm happy with it. I think it worked out pretty well. Everything looks great. The statue's amazing. This is like a holy grail for me, so I'm actually going to probably keep the base as is, only because after I put it together, I realized that this piece kind of connects onto here, I think it does, if I remember correctly. It kind of clips into here. So that's the only downside, that if I do a new base, I'd have to come up with something else. But I don't know. We'll see down the line. If I ever get to the point where my module cases are getting filled up, I don't have enough room anymore, and I need to cut down, I'll do it. But all in all, I'm happy with it. Really great statue. I'm really glad Hummingbird actually went with the first version. This is like the perfect Bayonetta for me. The ACY statue was great there for a while, and I liked it. But now that this came out, this is like awesome. This is just the statue of statues for Bayonetta. I mean, if somebody else can top this, I'm definitely for it. But I would love to have it more of museum poses, you know. Pose like that, a pose like that, or like that. Anything crazy bases that are super, you know, I'm not really a fan of that. I like just, you know, a basic figure with a smaller base than super elaborate bases. I want just the figure to focus on. That's kind of like my preference. So if anyone ever does take another attempt at Bayonetta from the first game, I'm not a fan of the second version or third version. Go with a nice museum pose and don't go crazy with the base. But there you go, I'm all done. So let me know what you guys think. Did you like the repaints of the guns? Maybe gives you guys a heads up. My next project is I'm going to go on Etsy. I'm going to snag myself a replica of the gun for, you know, like cosplayers use a 3D print. And I'm going to try to paint one up like that. And I'll basically make my own stand and have it up here in a case too, maybe back there behind her. So this way I can at least have a replica of the gun. So that'll be my next Bayonetta project down the line. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll be back with some more videos.